loved Ma, and she him. Clay looked into Slim's room behind the kitchen. Empty. Slim's makeshift chest had been torn open, and all of his things were strewn about the room. The mattress had been thrown back and ripped open with a knife. Ticking was everywhere. His pillow had been sliced, and feathers covered the ripped mattress. Clay stepped out of Slim's room onto the breezeway. He glanced to the right, barely noticing the blooms of the peach trees and grapevines his ma had planted. She loved her orchard. Nothing moved behind the house except the leaves on the trees. 3 quick steps took him across the breezeway to the door into his room. He pushed it open. His room had also been torn apart. Everything lay scattered. The drawers of his bureau were on the floor, and clothes were tossed about. His bed had been sliced open along with his pillow. These weren't Indians. This was the work of white devils, thieves, killers. He turned to his left and opened the door into his ma and pa's bedroom, always so neat and clean. She lay silent on the bed. Her neck was black from bruising, where 2 big hands had choked the last breath of life from her. Clay's tears flowed freely, cutting little rivers through his dusty face. A sob escaped him. He grabbed a sheet from the floor, where they had been scattered, and covered his mother's tiny, bloody body. Her face was calm and peaceful in death, as if the ravaging and raping of her body had not reached her soul. Clay stood silent, looking at her. Gabrielle Amelina Chevalier had brought him into this world, had brought laughter and happiness into this house, and made it a home. She lit up any room with her smile. Her smile was gone forever. He had no idea how long he stood there, but in time the tears stopped. His soft gray eyes took a steely shade, and the promise of laughter that constantly played around the corners of his eyes and mouth disappeared. The softness of the 17-year-old hardened, and his heart turned cold. "I promise you, Ma, they'll pay. Whoever did this to you will pay. I'll not rest until every one of these men is dead. I promise you that." Clay picked up a quilt, walked out of the bedroom, and turned right onto the porch. There was gruesome work to do. He walked over to Blue, mounted him, and eased up to his paw. He wrapped the quilt around his paw and hugged him, for the last time, with a muscular arm. Reaching up with the bowie knife that Slim had given him, he sliced the rope. He hardly noticed the weight of his father. Clay laid him gently across the saddle and rode a few yards to the field of bluebonnets that his ma loved. He stepped down from the saddle and gently placed his father on the ground. Holding Blue's reins, he walked over to Slim. Slim had grown up with Pa. They'd gone to war together. When Pa started this ranch, Slim had pitched in. Pa always said that Slim was more than a brother could ever be. They had seen the elephant together and survived. Ma had liked Slim. He was just an all-around likable guy. But crossing him could be a fatal mistake. He had been deadly with a gun, a knife, or his fists. To Clay, Slim was like an uncle. What Pa hadn't taught him, Slim had. Clay took Blue into the corral, stripped the saddle and blanket from his back, and rubbed him down. He checked to make sure the trough was full of water and put some hay out. Blue watched him, his ears forward, as if he too felt the pain. Clay picked up the saddle and carried it into the barn. He pulled his Winchester out of the scabbard, a gift from Slim, and carried it with him. He went to the house. He tried not to look at his ma, but then told himself, look and remember. This is what those monsters had done to his family. He picked up another quilt and went out to Slim. He wrapped Slim in the quilt and carried him to where his father lay, gently placing him on the ground. He had grabbed the shovel when he went after Slim. He started digging. Clay was digging the 3rd grave when he heard the horses approaching. He picked up the Winchester and waited. Adam Hewitt rode up, followed by his oldest son Toby and